Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven, and I'm here with my very special guest tonight, Mr.Rho. You with me?
Yes, I think I am.
All right. You have some coffee?
I've got some apple juice.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it. I know it's late. It's so nice to have you on board tonight. It's great to interview you.
Oh, it's great to be with you. You know, I'm really enjoying it.
Me too. It's a special treat for me, and I'm sure everybody else is digging it too. So let's tell everybody about your show and everything else you're doing here at freedomslips.com.
Yeah, I've got two shows spread across 3 days.
Wow.
We've got the first show is actually a 1 hour show, and that's Rho's Corner at the corner of Rho and What the WTF, which is on Studio A on Mondays and Tuesdays, just before Deacon John. It's at 1 p.m. Pacific time. On Studio A Mondays and Tuesdays, and that's the 1 hour show. And then I have my main show, which is Reality Extraction, every Thursday, and that comes right after Sean David Morton's show, except it's on Studio B at 5 p.m. Pacific every Thursday. And like I said, this Thursday, I am going to have a very, very special guest. His name is IQ Al-Rasuli, and he is an Iraqi exile that is the world authority on Islam, and he will answer every and all questions regarding that ideology, and he has an open challenge to anyone to debate him or disprove what he says. He's been studying this at the scholar level for over 30 years. And so I'm looking forward to talking to him. It should be he's the author of Lifting the Veil. So it should be very enlightening. So there's my plug, and there's my shows.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to hearing that one. So what do you think it is about the Osami Obamis? Why are they so into Islam? Why do you think that is?
Well, you mean, I see all of a sudden there's a big push from the powers that be. Now, I think Obama is Muslim Brotherhood. His lineage points to that direction. I think what we're seeing is we have a Muslim Brotherhood faction definitely that is in control of the executive branch and possibly beyond, possibly the judicial branch as well. I'm not sure about the legislative branch. I know that they're not in control of the military. What we see is a split of factions. The military has deployed all of their assets in a decentralized fashion this last year in 2015 during the Jade Helm exercise, which I don't think Jade Helm was part of the deployment. I think there's two separate things that went on. Jade Helm was a cyber dry run for things that are going on the network level. And the physical deployment, I think, was a precaution to not have all of your assets in one bag, because there has been a definite, in my opinion, it's borderline secret coup that has gone on, and we possibly have blackmail going on where it looks like the Muslim Brotherhood is holding some blackmail on the other factions right now, and that's why they're able to maintain control of the White House with their guy Obama. And this is international. They have the Rockefeller Foundation behind them. They have probably the Council of Europe. And in fact, I have a list somewhere, but I read them off on one of my shows, or maybe Sean's. But also there's the International Christian Churches Coalition or something like that is involved. But
wow.
At the upper levels, though, there is no. See, they want to have everybody on the lower levels fighting over things like race. Like, oh, your skin is a different color than my skin, so I have to hate you. And they want that sort of primitive attitude. But on the upper elite levels, that is non-existent. There's people that native tongues are Arabic or African dialects or, European or Russian or whatever, Asian. And they have a plan to completely dominate the world. And they're bringing together different cultures, different styles, different religions into a mesh of a new paradigm. And that's why we're seeing this flood of migrants that are, under the guise of, they're all coming from Syria. They're going to fill like Syria's got how many billion
I was
people?
going to say, what are they breeding? Are they cloning? I mean, how many are there? Yeah.
No, they're coming from everywhere. They're coming from North Africa. They're coming from India, Pakistan, every Muslim country. The only places I don't see them coming from are places like Indonesia, the island, area. But that's the largest Muslim country, and they don't care. They're down there doing their own thing. Fine. They don't step on toes. Okay. But everywhere else, they're flooding into Europe. And there is a reason for that, both on separate levels. There's a reason that the elite's doing it, which is different than the reason that the people that are actually doing the actual flooding think that they're doing it for. The lower masses that are sitting in dirt are being told on a very mundane level how to run their life, and they're obeying the ideology that's spelled out for them, that's being told to them by their holy men and their families and their friends, and they're sitting in dirt all day, and they're just trying to go because they want to get a better life and take over whatever they're being told. That's very mundane. But then you have another level. There's the intelligence level. They're steering the game, and they're getting paid. They're doing it for the money. Mm-hmm. Then above them, you have the elite. They're doing it because, well, they have their plan. And so it's many problems on many levels. And
so their plan is global domination? Is that it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And for one thing, Islam, the ideology of it, definitely is along that lines. That is the plan of Islam, as well as a world caliphate, as spelled out. That's the global. But see, they're using this also, the tolerance. They're breaking down the free will, the freedom of expression, and it's done in a twisted sort of way. It's kind of like when somebody who is practicing Islam would come up to you and say, I have the freedom in your country to tell you that you should cover up. Well, in our minds, from the Western side, we're thinking, well, wait a minute, don't we have the freedom to tell you to F off? Or
Absolutely, you do.
But see, it's one-sided.
And it's going to stop. And I agree with you. I think that they're playing all these games, this sociopathic behavior. Not playing it. Homie's not playing that. And I think that this is another thing, Mr.Rho. We have to take our power back. And you don't let these guys do that, control and manipulate through psychological warfare, which is what they're doing. And these crazy liberals, I don't know what the hell Kool-Aid they're on, but I'll tell you what, man, this is not going to fly. And for strong beings like myself, male, woman, it doesn't matter. I'm not putting up with that crap. There's no way in hell I'm putting up with that crap. Or having anything in between.
And it's very subtle. Like, for example, in Germany, one of the mayors, the mayor of Cologne, said, well, women probably should be mindful on what they wear, and they should probably start to keep an arm's length distance from strangers or strange men that they don't know. Now, that keeping an arm's length distance, that is Sharia law. That is in, which I have, the all thousands and thousands of pages of it. That is in Sharia law, that you will keep an arm's length distance. So this is what I call Sharia by stealth, and it's not a complete Islamic takeover per se, but it's using the ideology because it's already constructed, and they've got the whole corral set up to say, well, if you say anything against it, then you're racist, and you're going to be ostracized because we have the freedom of religion. And again, my guest is going to explain on Thursday that is not a religion, that is a dominating ideology. Mm-hmm. It is a cult.
Absolutely, it is. It's a cult, and it's, once again, mind control. Another thing I want to bring to your attention, too, and I discussed this before, was this abusive behavior. These guys, these invaders are coming over, and they're raping these women. Now, that, to me, is a breakdown on a psychological scale, because that's what they do in mind control for monarchs. I mean, they'll break them down on a sexual level. They'll create altars. People may not think this is anything, but I'll tell you point blank, there's a game board playing out here, and that type of behavior, that subhuman, violent behavior, is all about mind control, domination, entity control. And somebody like me who's a martial arts instructor, I'll tell you right now, man, I can turn the most calm, meek woman into Xena Warrior Princess in less than 2 months. I kid you not. I've seen it happen. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't take much pressure to break bones and ribs. And I'll tell you what, if you're a woman, you get yourself empowered big time. That's what I'll say to all of you out there. Get yourself trained, get yourself empowered, Carry a firearm if you have to. Do what you do to protect yourself. Do not tolerate this. And free will is freedom of speech. People don't like what we have to say here. Too bad. You try to prosecute me, I'm going to turn it around and prosecute you. I'm telling you, Mr.Rho, I'm at war with these guys. I'm done with it.
Oh, I absolutely agree, Solaris. They are going after they're going after everything that we stand for, our way of life. Like you said, the freedom of speech. The very essence of liberty is the right to offend. I tell people that do you like the KKK? And most people don't. I don't agree with anything that the KKK have to say. But you know what? I agree that they should be able to walk down the street holding guns, just like the Black Panthers. I don't agree with them either. But I do agree with their right to say it, and I agree with their right to bear arms while saying it. As long as they don't impose their will on someone else, they should be able to say what they want to say, call me stupid, and I should be able to say the same thing back. And yes, we're all adults. There is enough room for everybody.
Well, it's coexisting, Mr.Rho, and that's the problem. I don't know if they are adults. I think we're dealing with romper room and crayons right now with some of these people.
Well, this is what the powers that be are breeding into people, or the mindset is it's very immature. I posted on my Facebook page recently something called, I think it's called Tuck Frump.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I saw your post.
Now, the people in that, they meant that as a serious thing. At first I thought it was a joke. Like, these people are acting like idiots because what's the point they're making? Oh, wait, they're actually trying to make a real point. They're not. Okay. And this kind of short-circuited me. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is what is expected of the masses. This is the cross-section of how they want you to behave. This is the norm that is going to be pushed upon people. And I saw that video, and that's exactly what I see is a very childish, ridiculing, vile, crass, unintellectual, illogical, bashing, bandwagon joining, just mob mentality crap. That's the mode that we're supposed to be moving in, according to the Madison Avenue, Hollywood, if you will. And people have to kind of snap out of it and realize that we have to start using our brains and educating our our fellow man.
Or you wonder, do they have brains, Mr.Rho? That's the funny thing. I'm ready for the secret space program. I'm ready to go off planet. I say this every single time. I'm like, I'm so burned out on this. I'm sorry, you guys. I mean, there were some really wonderful people here on the planet in the illusion of. I love animals, but I am so done with the illiteracy of this planet and the perpetual lies, deception, oppression, programming, forced religions, forced BS. I mean, my goodness, it's so insulting for me to even experience and observe some of the behavior that's happening here. And you have to ask yourself, and I'm not arrogant, but I'm telling you, man, we have the good brains, okay? I am so grateful. I am switched on, and you are, and many of the listeners and the people here at Revolution Radio. Thank goodness we are not controlled and manipulated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because it's easy to see sometimes. I mean, it's funny. I see things like sometimes it's a dark comedy to watch the news. I don't really watch TV, but every once in a while I happen to gaze upon it, and I'll see something, and some of the ridiculousness, or it's little things that just, like when you go out to your car in the morning and you turn on the radio and you hear a bunch of nonsense, and then you move the channel, and every single channel you move to is some crazy stupid ad, and you just wind up turning it back off in 30 seconds because it's all ridiculousness. And yeah, I don't know. It's just it's everywhere you look. But maybe there is hope, because I think we are getting more and more listeners. I think there's more people that are waking up. There's more people. It's funny because that video that I posted, it has, I don't know how many thousand thumbs down as compared to like 200 or something thumbs up. Great. People are realizing that they're being called stupid in your face, and you're like, you're supposed to be stupid, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. You're supposed to be a childish, illogical, stupid person and act this way. And Mr. So-and-so is going, wait a minute, I am? No, I'm not. shut up and get out of my face. I think that's happening more and more. No, come on, drink this, buy this, go watch the millionaires throw the little ball around, and be like this, but what I've described on is like we're at a race. We're like in a neck and neck horse race where either the Illuminati or powers that be, whatever you want to call them, are going to get their technocratic dictatorship and pull the wool over everybody's eyes, and we'll fall into a dark night, or we're going to wake up and topple their little game of cards one by one, and things are going to come crashing down upon them, which is what I think I'm seeing. I'm seeing little things go wrong. Like Hillary Clinton supposedly was supposed to be this or something. I don't know. Maybe that's a game, but we're still here. Everything's okay. Ebola didn't quite make it yet. There's a lot of little things that probably should have happened that didn't. I don't know. I just have in my gut feeling. I see what some people don't believe this, but I feel we may have made little timeline shifts, if you will. There are little differences, but I think that we're winning. So that's my feeling.
That's great. Well, you have to make them work for it. The bottom line is let's try to take everybody down to this level. You have to make them work really hard for that. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people are awakening to the level to a point where we can counter. I see an implosion too. I see everything. It's out of sync with the multiverse, first of all, on an esoteric level. What they're doing, their agenda is completely not in sync with higher consciousness. Therefore, it's going to implode. On this timeline, it's going. I don't care what they say. I don't care what their agenda is. I don't care if they have the best remote viewers. It's going down. But to what degree everybody suffers is another scenario, and that's what I'm seeing too. And I would tell you point blank, I don't care how scared people get. I don't care how you feel if you're programmed or not. You have to stand up and be counted. Don't speak your truth. Speak the truth. Don't let these people bully you into silence. That is BS. That's harassment. That's passive harassment. Don't let them do it to you. They'll do it. You give them an inch, they'll take the whole world, which they've proven.
Oh, absolutely. It's always deception. It's always ulterior motive. And we always find out later. And it's the same game every single time.
I saved Mr.Rho. I think we can say SHIT, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, it is. And, the younger generations may not see that yet. And now I see, as I've grown older, because I was younger too. And at one point I was in a mindset and I thought I knew everything. And, but again, there's a lot to learn. There's always stuff to learn. You never know anything. But as you do learn more and you see that you've been played and you look back and then you start doing research, and educating yourself. Because when I was in high school, I really wish I studied a lot more than I did. I kind of coasted on through the public school and just, I made it through and all that. But I didn't really learn anything. Now I've taught myself more just researching myself than I ever learned in high school. But that being said, you find out how we've been played as a society over and over. And you learn just not to trust them. And then you also learn what to look for. You see these same, career politicians saying the same thing. And again, they just now they're fumbling. It's kind of like laughter breaks the spell. They can try as hard as they can, as they might, to control us with this nanotech, black goo, ultra technology alien deal that they supposedly made. But if you purify your green light heart chakra, if you are an honorable person, which it doesn't take a lot to be an honorable person if you really want to be. It doesn't take a lot. We instinctually know how to do that. You just have to do it. Then that technology doesn't seem to work. And this ties into, without going into a long-winded thing, what I believe has connections with the mechanism of possession on the molecular level. And things like being pure of the heart, well, quote unquote, what would Jesus do? Just be an honorable person, be a pure of heart person, as they say, and purifies your green light chakra. And that defeats all of this stuff, which supposedly everybody's infected with this technology, quote unquote, this ancient stuff. But maybe that's just the way this reality is. Maybe we are all supposed to be where we're at, and that's why it's so easy. Because again, it's there's nothing that they can do to overtake our spirit, our soul, our consciousness, whatever you want to call it. We're not native to this realm. This physical body is just an interface, a remote probe.
Right.
So, and if they find out that we, or if they realize that we all are starting to realize how powerful we are, then we have won the game. And they're trying to keep us in not only a physical prison, but a mental prison as well, to keep our consciousness from ascending, to use a word.
No, you're right on. And of course, with ascension too, I mean, that's the whole concept behind it, is to raise your frequency to a multidimensional space of consciousness. It's interesting because my information and my experience comes with the covert technology and the artificial telepathy. And I can tell you, when you talk about possession, yeah, there's an electronic possession, there's a psychotronic possession that can interface onto a target, and it mimics real possession, like something you would see in a horror movie, but it's all remote controlled. So once again, this is the technical beast and the technological beast I speak about a lot, and I call it the electronic god, but I think that's the maneuver connected to the AI and the reverse engineered technology that they've been working on. But I do see that, even if people aren't hearing any dialogue, I still think they're being hit with a frequency, and I think they're getting affected. And you can see by their behavior, they say things that are not rational. You see these weird comments that are coming out of people in the illusion of DC. I mean, they're coming up with stuff that's like, what kind of drugs are they on? And you have to ask yourself, are they being compromised? They must be handled. They have to be interfaced with something that's handling their psyche.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right, and I think they've gotten better at it. I think they've done some experiment. I have reason to believe that back a few decades back, actually, that they were experimenting with the AI and what you might call sort of like voice to skull technology on people that altered their brain frequency by the use of certain drugs.
Mm-hmm. That was the old days. Yeah, well, the CIA used to do that. Yep.
Yeah, meth, for example. And also, though, it's possible that some of these drugs make it easier for spirits as well to get in contact with people. Mm-hmm. Demonic forces, these kind of things. Now, when you have these two things together, demonic forces and artificial AI by, let's say, government control, that can be a very, very dangerous combination. And there is a connection with the AI, the deeper AI, the alien AI, because that's the plasma AI. Right. That is the one that's in everything, and the very essence of the psychotronic interruptions can be plasmatic or scalar on those levels as well. Scalar is the information transference. Mm-hmm. And now with things like Morgellons and the piezo nano what you call RNA DNA clusters that they have been perfecting, that they made a deal with the aliens that they contact through dark magicians that work in the military and black ops to get this information. They've progressed quite a bit, but that's again on a level where you have to let it in. You have to submit. It's just like you have to invite the vampire in, so to speak. And if you descend into that negative state, that negative aura, where where your aura has holes, and you are in a bad state of consciousness, then these things will find you like a light, and you will attract them.
Right. Well, they triangulate the target. I know from my experience in 2004. I mean, I was very at that point in the continuum, I was extremely high frequency and was not willing to invite them, so to speak. Although I wasn't afraid of them, and I think that was my error in the illusion of was being so fierce and not being afraid that maybe they received that as an invitation. Who knows? But it's really interesting because that technology, I wrote about this in my book, and I'm telling you, it's mirroring everything that they're doing right now. And what concerns me the most is that that's the next form of mind control, to a point where if you don't comply with what they want you to communicate or say or do, the artificial telepathy interface will argue and attack your brainwaves with EEG heterodyning and cloning, to a point where you will have to compromise with the program, or you get taken down. Now, this is the next maneuver they're going to do, and I'm telling you guys ahead of time, I'm telling you they're going to do this. They're going to try and deploy all of this mess on a mass scale scale. But I agree with you, Mr.Rho, because if you're a powerful, strong soul and you're pure of heart and your heart chakra is open to higher consciousness, you can negate this technology. But to this day, and I'll tell you point blank, I do have an anomaly signal. We've been trying to blow this mother effer out for years, and it's still there because it's hijacked by neural circuits. It doesn't compromise my brain. I mean, but I have anomaly signals. And if you want to talk about somebody who literally wants to prosecute the hell out of people, and including these covert governments, it's me. So this stuff is for real.
Definitely. And there are even, I mean, there are patents that are out that are not even secret. They don't even try to hide it on some of this stuff. You can go, I read a patent yesterday on, I think it was Sean's show, that talks about manipulation, neurological manipulation using screens that you're staring at right now. There's an actual patent on how to change your behavior with the monitor in front of you. And then that's just a mundane thing. I mean, they look for weak people, but they also look for folks, like you said, Solaris, that are strong, because also folks that have very strong auras also shine like a neon light in the dark as well. It's kind of like there are methods of detection that they use to home in on people, because we do give off signals. We all have electromagnetic fields. Every human has a signature, if you will, that's unique. And some of these auras or fields are stronger at times than others. Yep. And I often think maybe it's a challenge. Maybe it's kind of like they want to see if they can break somebody or something.
Well, absolutely. And also it's upgrades for their super soldier program, because a lot of this technology is something they'll deploy in the field, with the remote viewing, the artificial intelligence. I mean, artificial telepathy works in covert intelligence with spybird technology. My goodness, it's the best way to access a whole environment without anybody knowing, because you don't have a headset, you don't have a radio, you don't need anything, and nobody's going to know you're having interface except for your handler, controller, programmer, operator, and the AI.
You know, and it's a shame, because if this was an honorable world, we could use this ability. We could use this technology for good. Yep. We could use it to explore places that were hazardous, or to assist people that had problems, or whatever. You know, there's a lot of things, or to teach folks. And it would, I could go on, but it's a shame that this kind of stuff is, and you know, some of this stuff is available on the black market. If you have enough money, if you're a congressman, if you are a mafia guy or a CEO of a big company, and somebody gives you a problem, a lot of times it's been known that for a fee, you can have, you know, folks harassed, either electronically or gang stalked. That was the old way. Get a bunch of people to go start messing around with somebody and try to drive them insane. And it's a shame, but that this is out there, this kind of stuff. But yeah, Rodrigo just posted that patent, by the way, I was talking about with the electromagnetic. Yeah, thanks, Rodrigo. He's the one that actually turned me on to it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's just one example about how things, and like I said, they don't even hide it.
No, they're blatantly arrogant. It's interesting because you're right. It's a rich man's toy, and they have weaponized the whole technology. I mean, and you're right. We can use all this with, I think, with the secret space program, with their elite beyond the word, they do use the artificial telepathy on an appropriate scale. But it's been, I was kind of a test pilot for a lot of the programs back in 2004, and they were really getting into it with the programs they were running on me, and they made breakthroughs. And I put it all in my book, and I said, well, this is what you can do with it, but this is what they're using it for. And then I sent my book. Unfortunately, I sent it to the White House. And I sent it to Obama when he first got into office. And guess what? Guess who's been promoting AI since? He has.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yep, it is. So, but just it's amazing to me, because we want to do good. I mean, it's beings like us who want to do something at the highest level. We want to take technology and transcend it to the very high levels. We don't want to sit here and use it for destruction, harm, control, manipulation, ruining people's brains or minds. And these guys, all they care about is destroying and mangling. And it really makes me angry after a while.
Well, they better pray the day that when we finally do wise up enough in mass to get a hold of this stuff and call them out on all of it. You know, that's going to be a dark day for someone indeed, but it's also going to be a bright day for the rest of humanity. And you know, I think it's just a matter of time before enough people finally get organized, we could break it tomorrow. We could break our chains tomorrow. If only we could get organized to just move as one. In any direction. People say, well, let's go occupy this place, or let's go occupy that place, or let's go demand this or that. But we just can't get organized to do it. It's unfortunate, like this stuff that's happening up in Oregon. Whatever you think of it, unfortunately, one thing that I think is there's just not enough people. Because that's the thing is, in Ferguson, now, unfortunately, that was organized by George Soros and company, but there was a lot of people moving in one direction. They had that mob mentality, and I don't agree, but they weren't, it's contained, but it was more people, and so it was dealt with in a different fashion. That's why the police didn't just go in there and swoop and shut the whole thing down. But even Ferguson's not enough people.
Right.
You've got to have football stadiums full, just moving in a very Spartan-like way. And maybe it's, I often had the picture in my head, if you had 100,000 people out in front of Congress or the White House holding long guns, armed but silent, just staring at the White House, holding your guns, maybe a few signs with some statements. That would make a statement. That would show, oh, now these ants are organized. Now we really do have to listen. Because that's what they're trying to do when they want you to be, oh, look at his color skin. Oh, look at, you're gay, or oh, look at this. And for everything, except for, I would say, the one thing that I don't agree with is the ideology of Islam, unfortunately, at its core. But everything else is just pretty petty. Everything else is compatible. And as long as we're adult about it, I think that we can figure it out. And there actually has been talk, there is some groups about reforming Islam. And there's a lot of Muslims that are good people, and I believe that they're just not informed. They haven't, because how many of you have read the Bible from cover to cover? I mean, you can't read every book on every single. And I think that there's a lot of people that I don't want to insult Muslims in general, as in every single one, because there are folks out there that don't realize what they're getting into, and this is what I hope to educate people about. It's just like the AI kind of stuff. The people that don't realize these things exist, and that's what we're here for at freedomslips.com, and as voices, is to get you thinking, to say, hey, you don't have to believe me. If I say that at its core, Islam says this and that and the other thing, go look it up. Yeah. Maybe I sparked that little, curiosity to have you say, well, I'm going to prove MrRho wrong. MrRho said this, and I'm going to make sure that we'll go try it then. Because that's, with education, enlightenment, and the spreading of knowledge is their greatest enemy.
Right. Well, you know why? That's why the ancient mystery schools went underground. They were being persecuted. They had to hide their knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
We're doing the same thing to some degree. If you show how smart and enlightened you are and empowered you are, you become a target. There's no, it's just the way it is. And I'll tell you one thing about these people in these DC area. They think they're very intelligent, and I'm telling you they're not. We are a heck of a lot smarter than they are. A heck of a lot smarter. The only thing they have going for them is corruption and the money and the black budget money that's paying their bank accounts and the muscles and the strong arms that they get by being bullies. But that's it. And I'm ashamed to say that I wish our military would just wake the hell up. Sorry, but I wish they would.
One thing I was thinking about the other day is if you look at government and the way the paradigm has been for the last several decades, or even several centuries, I should say. Let's drag it out a little further. It's kind of like we as the people, the general masses, are 2 years old, okay? And the government is 10 years old. And it's very easy for a 10-year-old to pull the wool over and manipulate a 2-year-old. And a little time goes by, and we, the masses, are now 5 years old. The government is still 10 years old. And it's still quite easy for the 10-year-old to fool and manipulate the 5-year-old. And time goes by, and then we're 8. Well, now we're 9. Okay? We're 9 years old now, and the government is 10. Now, the government's still a little bit ahead of us, but we're catching up quick. And pretty soon, guess what? We're going to be 11 years old and 12 years old, and the government's going to be 10 years old. And then what's going to happen? This is how we're moving. This is how I see it. The tricks aren't working anymore, guys. The politicians, they're up there saying the same old, everybody's laughing at you. I'm just looking at Mr. Bushy with his beady little eyes, and Hillary, who's, I don't know, the FBI's after. You know,
well, they're taking their time, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, right, exactly. I mean, geez.
Not like she hasn't had a whole life to be a corrupt, you know what.
But what I'm saying is, soon their tricks aren't going to be enough, and we're going to be old enough to counter their tricks before they can even do it. It's starting to happen now. Pretty soon, the collective intelligence is going to be 15, and the government's going to be 10, and the 15-year-old's going to say, you know what, why don't we just do this and stomp them? And that's what's happening in places like, I think, in Iceland, and it's starting to trickle. I mean, people are starting to age up, if you will, in the consensus of the masses. So I have hope. I have hope. I just hope it's in my lifetime. I hope we get our crap together in the next couple of years instead of doing it. It might be a little messy, but...
Oh, it's going to be messy. In my opinion, if things go down the way they're going now, especially after looking at that Oregon scenario, that's not good. And that's just going to create more and more problems, because now they realize that they don't care. They don't care about life in general. They just want to shoot people. They could have easily arrested him. I don't care. They could have. They didn't have to do what they did. They did it. That's the bottom line. They want to make a statement. Bottom line. And they're going to continue to do this until you stop them. Okay? They're going to continue to control, manipulate, and bully and infringe on your rights until you stop them. And this is why you're right. We have to be the elders. We have to be the role models. We have to be the ones out there saying this is wrong. Whatever happened to a moral compass? My goodness, how hard is it to know right from wrong? Everybody knows right from wrong. That's a no-brainer, usually, right? But nowadays, it's like everybody's in the illusion that they think evil is good. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's completely upside down. I mean, some people want to use the term satanic, and I guess loosely you could use that. But perverted, I think, is a better term. But yes, right is wrong, hot is cold, up is down. I think it's a psyop to it's kind of like remove the morals, demoralize people in that way, remove morals, remove empathy, where instead of friendly competition in school, when the loser is ridiculed kind of thing, and there's a very strict undertone of behavior, any transgression by anyone, whether it's a student or a citizen on the street, will be dealt with the fullest extent of the heavy hand of the law. But at the same time, trying to promote everything in such a friendly and fun-filled family way, and as to not to offend anyone, but everything is brutal at its core, and ridiculous in a way. You know, that is rude, the sexualization of young children at a very early age, and over-sexualization. It's one thing to teach children about anatomy and how, the birds and the bees and how procreation works in the human species. It's another thing to teach your 5-year-old about, things that are on porn sites.
They're corrupting the children. Yeah, that's disgusting. And saying that pedophilia is normal is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
And they have doctors and PhDs that are coming out saying these things, saying that, it's just that they're people too. They're just like anybody else, and this is part of that perversion that's going on. I mean.
Disgusting. Well, that's part of mainstream. If you notice, mainstream doesn't have they don't have any balls between their legs. Okay, they're afraid to stand up and be counted. Even if they know it's wrong, they'll say it anyway. I can't stand people like that, because that's no integrity. I'm sorry. If you don't have any integrity, you shouldn't be on air. You shouldn't be on radio. They shouldn't have these major networks. They shouldn't have anything like that. And they certainly shouldn't have these people in D.C. Sitting there with their little lies and deception, of course. And, in the old days, too, when you projected your voice, that was called projection of a voice, right? And nowadays it's yelling. oh, the touchy-feely little weaklings can't handle a direct voice. It's oh, they're yelling at me. No, we're projecting our voices. Get used to it. You know what I'm talking about? It's all twisted and mangled. It's so sickening. These children are such frail units. We talk about when we grew up, we used to not wear helmets. We rode our bikes. We got dirty. We had all sorts of bruises. I mean, we didn't even have cell phones.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
I
remember.
It was amazing. We survived it, right?
Absolutely. I think, I don't know, maybe we are one of the last generations of the old school.
I think we are.
Because now, I used to say, when I was a little bit younger, I would look at some of the toys that the kids had, and I was like, when I was a kid, I wish I had that cool toy with all the, electronic things, and all I had was Tinker Toys or whatever. But I think we are. It's funny. I'm now seeing, the generational gap. And it's unfortunate because it only takes a few generations to completely change the normalcy of a society and the normalcy of what is morally acceptable. I used to see a much softer social order. Again, I'll say that now I'm seeing ridicule and very harsh treatment by peers, by friends of each, just in everyday life where there's a lack of empathy that's sort of being bred into the generational more and more, where each generation has a little less empathy. And I think that's what they want, is all of us to have this almost machine-like outlook on everybody else, where it's all about me and nobody else really matters on a level that I would really care emotionally, which is very unfortunate and very dangerous, and it should be stopped.
They lose their souls in the process. I mean, part of you being a compassionate being is being connected to your soul and your spirit and your higher consciousness. That's what gives us that beautiful unconditional love and enlightenment. And people are starting to switch that off. And whether it's being switched off naturally or through programming, that's where they're not reaching out to each other, and they're coming around the corner with this. It is kind of robotic. It's animatronic behavior. It really is.
Yeah, and they do want to turn everybody into kind of an automaton, very instinctual way of going through your day. I see that a lot of people are awake, but they're reactionary. They're not, they're interactive, but they seem to be in some sort of, it's almost like a daze, just a little detachment, kind of on automatic. I have a friend like that, just walking through life on autopilot.
Right.
So
a lot of people do that. Yeah. Well, I used to be like that before I was pulled into that program, and then my life changed forever. And I started, obviously getting more aware insofar as what was happening on a bigger scale. But, when you're talking about childhood toys, do you remember the Tonka trucks?
Oh, yeah. I used to have
big ones. My brother had those, and we used to ride on those on our stomachs. I mean, it was just little things that we used to do that were really fun, right? But nowadays kids have what? Constant television, constant iPhones. I mean, these little kids walk around with iPhones, and they're like, what, 5 years old?
Well, and it's, or they're on the video game with a simulation of shooting something. Now, a lot of people say that the violence on the video games doesn't contribute, and I played violent video games too. I don't know, not at such a young age, but I don't know. But I think that there is some kind of detachment going on with the video game era. I don't want to say that they're really bad, but I don't think they're healthy as they could be. They're pulling kids away from being outdoors and running around and getting proper exercise. There's a lot of things that I just don't agree with the indoctrination, actually, of our children in public school in the first place.
Agree. Well, I never cared for school even when I was a kid. I hated it. So I guess that's, and I didn't realize at that point in the continuum how much it was all lies and deception, not real information, all edited and censored. His story, a version of life, a version of an event. I mean, what a mind trap. And then the thing is, they condition you to be, and train you into another reality. Here, we're going to put you in the school so you're trained to do this. And then you get out of school and then you go in and you do this for a living. And it's just like a nightmare. It really is. It's such a brain assault on so many different levels for people who are very enlightened.
Yeah, a friend of mine was asking for help. She's in college or taking some chemistry and this and that, and she was asking me like, "Oh, can you help me with I'm having a test?" I said, "Oh, okay." And she said like one of the examples, like what's the goal of chemistry or something, Okay, and they expect a answer. And if you study along and look and says, the general consensus of the answer for this question by educational blah, blah, blah is scientific method, scientific discovery or whatever. But basically what I'm trying to say is they have a preconceived idea for how the paradigm is. And when you go to a college and when you go to school, that is the box that they're putting you in. So that they're limiting the exploration into a confined set of rules, which I don't think is the way our species is meant to go. I mean, for one, that our public school system's a complete failure. Maybe the universities teach you a little bit something here and there, because there are some things. But the public school system's modeled off of prisons, for one, and just there's nothing I don't think of any real substance that I can see anymore from my research, especially from what I found with like Common Core. Our children, that's one place that we've got to start is removing the vaccine and public school influence on our young minds that are coming up that are supposed to take over this earth. I mean, they're not starting out in a very positive manner from what I can see.
You're right. Well, I think they're training them to be slaves. I don't think they want them empowered or educated or enlightened or thinking outside the box. And the vaccines are just going to poison their systems. Not that every vaccine is bad, but, the more we know about vaccines, the more we realize that it's a contamination factor. I mean, those things are disgusting.
Yeah.
So,
how have we gone? How long has the human species been around, and how long we've been without vaccines? All this time, we've still survived. So now, all of a sudden, we need vaccines. I think we're doing more harm than good.
I agree.
And I absolutely believe that vaccines are part of a nefarious program that does involve nano manipulation, using what they call nanophages, which go in past the blood-brain barrier and they target specific areas of the brain. They may lie dormant and wait to be activated. They may be there for other specific reasons, but that's not good. You don't want something invading your system and you don't even know what it is. And you don't know. You trust, for some reason, this is what always gets me, is we know that we're being lied to on just about every level on everything. But for some reason, the vaccines are the one thing that the biopharmaceutical and government is all doing that's for the good of everybody, right? It's for the good of your children. That you can't trust them for anything else. They're killing you with everything else. But no, the vaccines are fine. Bull crap. I mean, it's just it doesn't fly with me.
No, it doesn't fly at all. Another thing they have is that defense system where they're trying to say, well, we have a nice defense shield now that's preventing the human race from being impacted by asteroids or anything else that could be coming in. I'm not buying that. Since when do they give a damn about the people on this earth? I'm sorry, but if they're developing weapon systems out there or anything that's supposedly shielding this world from something coming in from the outside, it's not to protect us, trust me. It's deflect an attack from an outside species. So I'll tell you that point blank, they're terrified, and eventually they're going to get caught with their pants down. I really think they will. But at this point, you're right. We're constantly being fed snake oil, and it's time to let go of it and just say no.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. TRW does have a defense shield. They have had a defense shield for, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 years down over Southern California that you ask Sean David Morton. Ask him. That nothing's going to get through. We've had the technology, but you're right. It's not because they care about you and me, because if they did, that would have already been released. It would already be, it's for either them or for something else, and just as a underlying thing. I mean, I saw a story today. Here's what shows the attitude and how how much they care is the Flint, Michigan thing where all the water is bad. There was a story that came out that the government actually knew about that, and they had used the money from the taxpayers to truck in water for themselves for all the government offices, while the rest of the city drank the bad water.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's not like they didn't know or they just neglected. They actually went the extra mile and said, "Oh yeah, we'll fix it for us." But not using your money. I'm going to use your money to fix it for me, but you can just go to wherever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the whole idea, is that if we ever did have it hit the fan, they'd run away, hide in the underground, or do whatever it was to break orbit and go someplace else as a quote unquote breakaway. Because I know they're cowards, and I know they can't face the music if the music got really ugly.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Mm-hmm. It's shameful. There's no doubt. Well, I like Starfleet Academy. I like that concept of getting out of here and going to the secret space program and just getting out of this place. So who knows? I hear that we have multiple space programs that are secret, and you just never know what sector we'll wind up in. But I hear that saying the meek will inherit the earth. Well, I don't know. I don't think I want to be the meek that's inheriting this earth and the illusion of. I think I'd rather go to the stars.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I think we do have the ability to travel amongst the stars. I actually believe that we have two breakaways, that one breakaway civilization is already left, that they've taken their stuff. They said, "We're leaving, guys. Good luck, and thanks for playing. Bye." And they're gone. Mm-hmm. They've abandoned us, and who knows what they're doing.
We're supposed to be gone, too. What happened?
I think another breakaway civilization that's still here, but they're not making any real interaction. They're maybe dealing with the ones in the caverns and the other species, but they're kind of involved with the other secret space program. And we do have that military secret space program that's probably on a a diplomatic relation level with some of the extraterrestrials, and they're the ones that are bridging the gap between the mundane military that we interact with, that's fighting the show war, and I do think that everything's a show. I do believe that we are under what's called the secret family program. Everybody at the top they're all related. They're all interlocking. I think that a lot of them are pulling the wool over our eyes. This is going to sound really weird, Solaris, but I do think some of these folks are what you're calling playing multiple roles. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, but I think that there are some that are playing two people that you're not supposed to know they are, but they are, and they're related, and it's not public knowledge. Like it would be like, for example, I'm not saying this is true, but this is just an example. Like Donald Trump is not actually married to his wife. That's actually his daughter or his cousin or something like that. I'm not saying but for example, and this spans entertainment, industry, government, the whole gambit. And they are creating reality. And the reason they play multiple roles is so that they can kill off characters that are gone after manipulating reality in the way they want to make it. It sounds insane, but the more I research into this conspiracy theory, if you will, the more certain aspects of it seem to make sense. I have interviewed Ed Chiarini, the gold bug, who postulates this kind of theory, and I don't think he's 100% accurate, but I think he's onto something. Mm-hmm. I think there's a few of those folks. In fact, one of those individuals was a friend of mine, and it made me think. I won't say who, but I'm wondering now that, and it's strange, but I believe that we're faced with a facade of reality. And I could probably go on and take up the rest of the time, but I see we're coming up the top of the hour and the end. But I do want to say thank you very much for having me on your show.
Oh, it's been an honor to have you on. I hope to have you back. It's fabulous. I love talking to you.
You're going to have to come on my show now on these days.
Anytime. Yeah, you're my evil twin. Don't you know that?
Right.
Which one's evil, really? No, we're both wonderful light beings, really. Just contaminated by weirdness. What's funny, but the motto, what comes into mind and play is nothing real exists. That's my motto. I think Spock said that, if I'm not mistaken. But that's what it reminds me of. Nothing real exists, because reality is what you make it, and from day to day through energy and construction of energy and consciousness.
So true. I'd agree with that. Yes.
But I do want to thank you so much. And I do want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you appreciate Mr.Rho. He's fabulous. And of course, please stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dundre and Becky coming up next to sell you on it tonight from Down Under as they do with their incredible show. So Mr.Rho, let's give him a rundown again about your show and everything.
Yeah, Thursdays is the main show. That's, what is it, from 5 till 7, so that'd be 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B. And then on Mondays and Tuesdays, I have Rho's Corner on the corner of Rho and WTF, 1 hour show at 1 p.m. Pacific Time on Studio A. And that's Mondays and Tuesdays.
Well, what about books?
I haven't published any book yet.
You better get something rolling there, mister.
Yeah, I've got a book / screenplay in my head, and I do one day want to put it down. So
get that rolling. I was going to say, I'm always encouraging people to write because I know you have a lot of talent, so you want to get that out there. But don't you do videos?
No.
Oh, I thought you mentioned something about videos. Okay, so does your show doesn't stream or anything?
No, not on YouTube or anything like that. I do put some of the archives that I do, some of my shows up on Vimeo or VEOH. Usually it's Vimeo, though, recently that I've been using.
Excellent. So is Sean coming back on Monday or what?
I think so. He should be back on Monday, yeah, as far as I know. If not, I'll be covering for him, but I think he'll be back.
You do an excellent job. I say you do a fabulous job as his producer, too. I like your sound effects. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure working with Sean. He's all right. I like Sean. He's got a great mind, and he's really got a great personality, and is really a good guy to work with.
Yeah, so. He's high energy. So are you too. So it's been really nice to have you on. You know, when you were talking about those alters, we might run out of time here for a second, but that's what comes to mind when you talk about the multiple role playing. It sounds like alters that were created for these people to have multiple step-ins to their personality. You know, alters that surface.
It's funny. I haven't thought about that because I always thought they were conscious of it, but maybe some of them are not even aware of it. That would be an interesting twist.
Yeah, well, that's part of the mind control is to break them down and then create and insert alters, and those alters have different personalities and characters, different abilities. So I know that's really popular with CIA. That's another thing too. I think the CIA has been really overseeing a lot lately. You obviously think they're connected to the Islamic agenda, right?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think the CIA is split into several factions as well, and there's groups within the CIA, and one of them is definitely connected to the Brotherhood and the agenda. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I thought so too. Well, I think they're waking the sleeping giant. I think that this whole thing is pushing for something. I see this planet kind of moving like scales. You know, it's waking up. It's shaking its energy off, and I think that we're going to go into some interesting events. So that's my prediction for the year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's may we live in interesting times, as the old Chinese curse goes. So
it certainly is a Chinese curse, and since they own most of the United States right now, don't they?
They're working on it. Well, you heard about there's a new Mecca in Wyoming, the Mecca of the West. It's going to be.
No! Yeah, it's okay. Saved by the Bell. Right, we're going to have to discuss this next time. Thank you so much, Mr.Rho. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Everybody, have a great week. Take care.